And we took him in the studio, and I really didn't want him to think he was auditioning. We just wanted to see what he did, And he started with the guitar, put the drums on, and you could tell he had it covered. We were in the control booth. He was sort of sitting on the floor. I'm stepping over him. And he looked up at me and he said, "Don't make me black," that he's competing with everyone. Named artists from different genres, the Beatles, Sly and Family Stone, Eric Clapton. I mean, it went on and on and on. There's an enormous amount of ambition, the ambition to be great.
I wish people would understand that I always thought I was bad. I wouldn't have got into business if I didn't think I was bad.
Today, we surpassed 25 million copies for Thriller. Michael Jackson!
Michael Jackson holds on at #1 for his 31st week. That ties the Fleetwood Mac Rumors album for the most weeks at #1 by a rock act. The most popular album in the land is Thriller.
The nominees for the favorite soul album are Lionel Richie for Lionel Richie, 1999, Michael Jackson.
I once said to Prince, because you remember how he was putting music out all the time, just so fast. I said, you can't put out your music as it comes to you, like you're Miles Davis or somebody. If you want to compete with Michael, you have to, everything has to be a giant marketing plan, planned 2 years in advance. And he looked at me.
I made my career in saying whatever I felt like saying.
Michael was coming up. Thriller record came. It was time. Michael was on MTV. Prince was going to get on it. Little Red Corvette, 1999. He was going to get bigger than that. It was a perfect time for Prince to say, I'm going to be the guy.
I respect a person's success, but I don't like a lot of popular music. I really never did. I liked more of the things I heard when I was little than I hear now. People don't write songs anymore. There are a lot of sounds and a lot of repetition. That's when producers took over. There were no more acts. Right. And that's why there's no box office anymore. Nobody wants to go see these bands.
It was the perfect time. He had grand ideas for himself. He wanted to be the most famous pop success. He was a student of musicians and performers.
Prince's concept is James Brown and Jim Hendrix, Marvin Gaye. His concept on the stage is like Charlie Chaplin. If you look at it, you'll see. I can see it, but he doesn't tell anybody that. And he combines all that all the time. That's what he is. How can you miss with that?
Some of his looked like Mick Jagger. And then he got precise with the stuff like Michael Jackson. So he took everything that worked for the biggest people. He put his interpretation onto it and made it his. He was performing. He loved being a star. He was built for that shit.
He loved the adoration of a crowd. And he knew it was going to take a specific thing to get that crowd going.
You had Michael making that mini movie. Right. So it was always, Prince was very competitive. Oh, Thriller? Oh, I'm doing a movie.
We shot the movie using my money and Prince's money. We had run out of money. Warner's was supposed to give us $7 million. The checks to the Teamsters weren't good. And the Teamsters Union was threatening me all the way through this. It was 2.5 hours long. You know that Prince movie couldn't be 2.5 hours long. So there were scene missing slugs all through the movie before we had filled in. We didn't have some of the comedy in and whatever. The only thing Warner's does is guarantee the loans. But it looks like the bank wants to wait till there's no risk whatsoever. They just demanded to see all the footage. I show it. They hated it. Bob Daly and Terry Semmel stand up in the screening room and turn to Mo Austin and say, "You want to give me another one of your rock and roll acts to make a movie?"
I care about our marriage breaking up.
Because they had lost money on One Trick Pony with...
Paul Simon.
One Trick Pony, a film from Warner Brothers.
Opens Friday.
Mike Ovitz, who was my personal agent, was there in the screening room, and he turned around and yelled at those two guys, "Hey, if you don't want it, you'll have a check in the morning. We'll take this. Bob, I think you've got something great here. I can see when you cut this, it's going to be fantastic."
So he basically intimidated Warner Brothers.
They surrendered immediately.
The filming process took place at First Avenue at the nightclub, and there were some scenes where we were in like a dressing room, which was actually a set that was created to depict dressing room, because the real dressing room at First Avenue at that time was mall in Crampton, really wasn't logistically workable. But then the rest of the filming, the live performance, it was all done at the club, and all that stuff with all the extras, jamming in there like a big crowd, and right there for about 3 weeks nonstop for those parts of the film. The other scenes that had nothing to do with First Avenue were usually done around the Twin Cities or in sound stages. They did some things out in Los Angeles.
We were going to L.A. to do one or 2 days more shooting. The night that the trucks were supposed to leave, the Teamsters slashed the tires of the trucks.
Shortly after the movie, we shot some scenes in downtown L.A. We just had some fill-in shots to do.
But I got the loan the night of the rap party. I got the loan the night of the rap party. I mean, I got the okay.
Yeah. No, I remember that at one point we thought we were done shooting, and there was an assembly of the film, and it didn't have like the scenes, like the whole "Take Me With You" thing on the motorcycle. That was a reshoot. They kind of went back and looked at it and edited it. And
we did have focus groups and audience participation where they signed pieces of paper and say they liked it or didn't like it.
And it really made a huge difference. And I remember then when we went back and had a screening here in LA in some little room, and we all watched it together, and it was like, you did it! Just turn around. You did it!
We shot it was about 6 months when Dove's Cry was a massive hit.
We put it out so early, it was just so great to have the people buying the record. They were sold on this. We did radio stations promotions so they could do a midnight showing of Purple Rain in all the key cities.
It felt great. Jungle Love was on the radio so much, man. I think every station, I turned, I would hear it, and I turned to another station because maybe I didn't want to hear it, and guess what? It was on. It was just, the rotation was incredible. So that was it for me. This is it. I'm in L.A., I'm staying. So I was basically out of the band.
Nobody expected that Purple Rain was going to do what it did.
There's no way to predict how that's going to go.
This was bigger than I ever imagined. We went from rock stars to now we got Hollywood.
My wishes and prayers were for that album and that movie to become successful.
Thanks, Eddie. We'll see you at the party. Eddie Murphy!
In '84 at the Chinese Man's Theater.
Yeah, the premiere.
People were going crazy in the red carpet. I was like, oh, wait a minute. It was blowing up. It was just a whole nother level of intensity.
Yeah, right.
It's a difference going on here,
See the movie, and then I want to see some lovely young ladies. This was going to be, a launch for me. I knew something special was happening, but it was special. Being part of it, I thought, wow, this is it. But I never realized that I would be Apollonia for the rest of my life. And, people would know me for, the song Sex Shooter, Take Me With You. That I would be attached to Prince for the rest of my life.
it was insane. It was like, I don't know what it was like.
Man, when we walked that carpet, I was like, what? I was tripping.
Nobody expected.
I have fantastic memories of going to the premiere.
We treated it like royalty.
It was a rock and roll film, and you hadn't seen one of those in a long time.
It was great.
It just blew open so big, so wide.
How close to the real world? It's close. It starts out pretty negative, but the film takes you to a better and happier place, you know.
The conflict is we want him to play a song of ours and he doesn't want to play it. It's a struggle to let him know that we do care about his career in the films.
I never really saw the movie in its entirety until it premiered. And I watched the movie and I just saw the energy and how people were acting, you know.
I never thought that it would have the success that it did. I was really shocked.
Seeing, you know, parts of the movie as it's being filmed and knowing what the music was like in advance, I had a pretty good idea that it was going to be successful on some level.
That was Al Magnolia's story. We used parts from my past and my present life to make the story pop, but it was a story.
You know what? It was real. Even though it was in the movie at the time, at times I was able to tap into some real emotions because there was some of that stuff really going on. So it was real, just as much as it was, you know, Hollywood.
He just doesn't talk to anybody.
All right!
Maybe a little later, you go home and watch this. We're going to be covering the party live. Have a good time
Okay,
tonight.
folks, let's meet Mr. Morris Day. Morris? Now tell me about the Time. Are you still with the Time?
Well, this is our last record together, and after this, it's going to be the Morris Day show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, I've got big-headed, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When Morris wasn't around, he didn't have to come to rehearsals. If he knew what ideas or how arrangements he wanted to add or whatever, whatnot, I was the guy that, and I was never officially the guy that runs this. I was never that.
I don't necessarily remember any conversation, or was I privy to any conversation about the Time continuing with Jesse being the front man. They may have had that conversation.
Nope. When I left, I left. Never, because the Time was his thing. It was his baby. To this day, he'll tell you, I have major respect for hierarchy. But I respect him greatly. It's his thing, and I never step on anybody's toes during that thing.
He had a hard time letting go of people once everybody started leaving. You know, Vanity left, Morris left by this time.
Jesse decided to go. Time was no longer.
But he had no intention to keeping the Apollonia 6 thing going as a long-term project in any way. Hattie wanted to continue with her acting to cross over from the American market. Apollonia, she really hadn't done very much in the white market, and Susan wanted to finish her education.
Me and Jerome were the last two from the, you know, sort of sitting there, and we were the ones he clung really hard to.
You tired too?
And almost forced us to stay.
Prince came to us in this little warehouse that was in Eden Prairie. And he said, well, Morris is gone. Jesse's gone. Who wants to stay? We're going to do a new band, and you're going to be the lead singer. And he pointed at me. I think at that point of time, everybody wanted to sign someone from Minneapolis. So I'm sure there was a few more zeros attached to Jesse's offer than Prince was going to offer him.
I signed as a production company, not as Jesse Johnson. So that's why I could go, if you look at that period, I'm on all kinds of stuff, doing everything everywhere. John McClain was my A&R guy, and he signed me. Mm-hmm. So the only artist I think he'd signed at that point in time. But we never reaped the Purple Rain thing, and because we were supposed to go on tour. When I signed my record deal, very few, if anybody, only John McClain know this, and Prince. But when I signed to A&M Records, I signed the deal, but I didn't have to do a record for a year. It was going to be our first time out without Prince. It was going to be on our own merit. So that was the whole thing. We were never, ever, ever planned. Prince was, you kidding me? Prince was so sick of us putting our foot in his ass after the 1999 tour. He wasn't taking us in the backyard.
When Jesse did Fast Girls and that, we just thought, wow, okay, that's more, she's got like a little attitude to her. Because we knew young she had an attitude. Because when she was doing the whole Mae West thing. So we knew she was cool. She was big fans at the time. She sat front row when we played Long Beach when we couldn't play the Forum and played Long Beach. She sat front row with her mom and she came back after and met us and stuff. She was so sweet and all that. So anyway, so we knew her already. We felt like we already kind of had a little bit of a relationship with her.
When Morris decided to go his way, he pulled me into his lair and groomed me even more to write scripts with him, to create scenarios for videos.
We were the first, and we were highly successful, but nevertheless, it's almost like the more success you had, I don't really think it mattered because it was at the end of the day, it's somebody else's thing, you know. So even though you're having success, it never really feels like. That's why it still to this day feels weird when people go, man, I love you guys this, and your music this, and cool, and I'm going like, yeah, that's not me, that's Prince.
I had already threatened to leave. I wanted to produce my own record and write for myself. He had Cavallo come up to my place in Santa Monica.
Morris, he never wanted it.
He said, so I talked to Prince about this, and Prince said, that's fine. And I said, yeah, that's what I want. You know, we talked it through, and he said, as long as he can be the executive producer. I knew what that meant. That meant the same different day. I get it. It's time for me to move on.
Probably because he might have been ensnared with the drugs and stuff. But when after Purple Rain, we had all this success, and Prince wasn't going to make any movies connected. I said, I got a great idea for you guys. Purple Rain 2, The Further Adventures of the Time. Cut back to the nightclub where some mob guys are in this audience, and Morris and them win the second prize, which is a month in Vegas. They go to Vegas. Their only friends are the showgirls, but the cops and the mob, both of them are after them. And I tell that to Morris. I say, you were going to have a monster home run. You're a star. That movie made you a star. He said, you made me a clown.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, he was vicious.
A lot of the managers and people that he brought on, they start to play key roles into whether your relationships will be sustainable or not. It's because these were white people managing him. Their whole idea was, we want to get him in Rolling Stone. We want him to be this. So let's just X out everything black about him if we can. He turned a lot of his relationships into transaction relations. They all became transactional. It changes your dynamic. You're the one in the band, you're all friends, but then you're writing the checks and you've got other people telling you you're paying this one too much, and then there's this one. It's a really big adjustment. And I think it took Prince down a lonely road.
He was a little confused with the advent of hip hop.
Chaka Khan.